Right, so, oh boy, where do you start? The Iron Chancellor Rachel from Accounts is still up a certain creek without a paddle where the UK economy is concerned, and she's just been put in her place all the more, it seems. Less iron, more rubber Chancellor, given the bouncing U-turn she's just performed. She dared, for a change, to deign to come after the rich. She dared, for a change, to actually say she was going to fulfil a pre-election pledge on behalf of the Labour Party. She dared to finally say, after attacking pensioners, after attacking benefit claimants and threatening to take driving licences away from people who owed the government money, to go after the non-dons, to go after the super rich who engage in expensive tax avoidance deals to avoid paying their share of tax. Well, it lasted for one day. One day of lobbying, one day of complaint, one day of threat from the wealthy to have her scurrying in the other direction. Well, this is what happens when you have a bought and paid for government, isn't it? They can't go after their backers. They're polling as it is. They need that future election cash more than ever. And of course, with that kind of clout behind them, it's little wonder Starmer and Co can talk of having big balls to make benefit cuts and being ruthless about economic growth when it comes to those without any money. But when it comes to those with it, vast swathes of it, who have hoarded the vast majority of this nation's wealth, their balls have well and truly just shrivelled up. Right, so Rachel Reeves has just proven in a way, beyond doubt frankly, just how bought and paid for Keir Starmer's Labour Party is. How beholden they are to the rich and powerful. They relied on millionaire and billionaire cash to get elected when Starmer chose the way of Blair over the way of Corbyn, chose the rich over the membership of the Labour Party, chose authoritarianism and Tory lightism over democracy and socialism and everything the Labour Party is meant to stand for. And this government is now a prisoner to that. Corbyn freed the Labour Party, debt-free off the back of a tenner here or a fiver there from ordinary working class people the country over. Starmer has returned Labour to a debt-ridden party permanently going cap in hand to big donors, begging, who now own the party again in effect. As such, where Reeves and Starmer can act all tough and hard when it comes to stripping pensioners of the winter fuel allowance, because no matter how much rights groups representing the elderly lobby such a party, without money you don't get heard. You can't give them the cash, you see. Same goes for those on benefits, of course, whether you are in work or not, because quite simply, it's money from the government you're getting, so them turning off that tap or finding an excuse to that they hope won't land them in court over, of course, is the direction they're going to go in over that. It doesn't matter if that is disability benefits to help you get to work. That is irrelevant, and nothing is nailed on that point more than the abject stupidity over threatening to withdraw your driving licence from you if you've been overpaid and can't pay it back. Well, that'll help you to pay it back if you can't get to work anymore, won't it? Our rancid mainstream media have presented this as a crackdown on benefit cheats because, well, they salivate over headlines like this one, don't they? They get off on it. But government error and overpayments happen all the time. It is especially prevalent, it has to be said, amongst carers claiming carers allowance, people who have given up work to look after disabled loved ones, because it is such a poorly administered and overseen benefit. And as somebody who formerly claimed it, believe me when I say even getting off that benefit isn't straightforward. You can only claim it for being a carer for a disabled person in receipt of certain disability benefits. And if they're still claiming, but like me ended up earning over the arbitrary threshold, my YouTube channel growing to the point I needed to cancel that, I couldn't just ring them up and say, please can you stop it now? They want to know why. Am I still caring for that person? Yes, I am, but my earnings have now topped the £147 a week I think it was at the time. Nothing you could actually live on. That money incidentally also coming out of the disabled person's disability benefit anyway, so they're already down money, particularly relevant if the carer doesn't live with the disabled person, for example, and even when you do, the household is no better off for it. I actually did it to claim national insurance stamp. And I actually had to go over that limit, that earnings limit, and prove that I'd done that before they actually cancelled it and stopped it. Now, I'm savvy to such matters. I've written goodness knows how many videos on government benefits policy and abuse over that. I knew this was happening. I was on their backs about this as it was happening. But so many people are unaware they're going over, unable even to close the claim, as difficult as that can be made, as I know personally. But the media will only ever call such people benefit cheats, won't they? To sell a rancid policy to the majority of people who are completely unaffected by it. aren't familiar with the system, but it has to be seen for what it is in the wider context, and it is punching down on those with the least and calling it strong to do so, calling it strength, calling it flex, when it's nothing but the easiest, the cruelest, and the weakest route in government to making savings. And it certainly doesn't help the economy grow when our spending power is literally what grows the economy. Our spending power, however, has only diminished, and with it, the economy. I mean, back in the post-war era, for example, the government wasn't celebrating growth figures of 0.1% or 0.2%, as they seem to have done for years now. It was growth figures of 3% or 4%, vastly greater. And do you know what we didn't have any of back then? Billionaires. Since Labour came to power in July, the UK's billionaires have added a collective £6 billion to their personal wealth. Have you felt anywhere near that better off? I know I certainly haven't. Where's our cut of the economic growth then? They're the only ones who get it. They're the only ones who see the growth and the wealth of this country, the billionaire class. Economic vampires bleeding the country dry of its ability to run, not only because the vast majority of their wealth just sits there inactive and unused, probably in the Caymans or the British Virgin Islands, literally swimming in cash, a bunch of Scrooge McDucks in their money bins, while a whole generation here can no longer earn enough to buy a house or start a family, even simply make ends meet, where a health service is being engineered to collapse, where the elderly are no longer respected and looked after, and where the social contract is completely broken, and in no small part can all of it pretty much be brought right back to the fact that one thing these billionaire and millionaire parasites do use their wealth for is to buy our politics, buy our political parties, buy politicians, influence and fund said politicians, so that no matter who we vote for, they work for them instead. And so when Rachel Reeves said she was coming after those non-doms, she was going to bring them to heel, the fact she has backed off within a day, compared to her iron stance on other policy areas, shows exactly who she works for, shows exactly who owns her backside, and Keir Starmer's, and this government's. But the optics of it are astoundingly bad. This was literally Starmer's Labour going after the rich policy. This was the policy. My God, how much stuff did Labour promise going into the general election that was going to be paid for by scrapping the non-dom tax status? There was loads of it. It was paying for everything, wasn't it? Labour knew then that was popular with the working class. They knew then that was how to get their votes, that taxing the rich makes a difference as well because they have all the money, and to meaningfully fix this country, the only option is to tax them, tax their wealth. But it's party before country we're seeing, and Reeves backed off. This non-dom scrapping was going to pay for universal free school breakfast clubs, wasn't it? It was going to be more hospital appointments for us, dental appointments, NHS dentists, remember them? Extinct now, aren't they? £1 billion in the first year was Labour's projection that would be raised. Well, where is all that coming from now? Or is it all just more Starmer hot air? Well, I think we can take an educated guess now, can't we? So now the damage limitation comes, though. And in comes the mainstream media outlets, the more right-wing ones, slamming Reeves and laughing at her purported stupidity, and the more centrist ones, the more Starmer-leaning ones, demonstrating the need to change because we absolutely do need these billionaires, thereby still throwing Rachel from accounts actually under the bus, but offering reasons that are too believable, sadly, even though they're all completely wrong. Now, these more right-wing outlets like the Tory Graph, for example, have gushed at Reeves over her stupidity, that her U-turn is too little too late and the billionaires are going to leave the country. Oh my God, why would somebody think of the billionaires? Well, good. Can we boot them up the backside for them sucking the life out of this country as they go? Besides, they can't take all their wealth with them anyway. Property portfolios, bricks and mortar, they're going to stay put, aren't they? The UK is still the 6th biggest economy on earth, and they know it too. They're the only ones who benefit from it after all. So even if they did leave, there's not a cat and hell's chance of taking all of their wealth, all of their investment in the UK with it. But then there's the more nuanced approach, isn't there? Rachel Reeves was going to drive away the wealth creators, we get told, by the likes of the Guardian or the Independent. Oh, scary. Well, given we don't see that wealth, our lives get harder and more expensive. Who are they creating it for, even if that were true? Themselves. Who are the real wealth creators in this country, though? It's us, isn't it? It is we, the working class, who work for the companies and the business interests, who actually do pay our fair share of tax, unfair share of tax even, are these people with all their wealth, to grow their wealth. It never trickles down. And that has always been the Thatcherite lie, the capitalist lie. Every government since Thatcher following in her sell the kitchen sink off footsteps, never deviating from it. And when the country came close, Jeremy Corbyn, well, he had to be destroyed, didn't he? Who financed that operation? Money spoke again, didn't it? The rich protected themselves, and therefore we continue to struggle. Starmer's Labour are as inept as they are incompetent, utterly transparent, and their backsides are bought and paid for, just like the Tories were before them. The status quo never changes. It's always one or the other of these parties taking turns to serve the billionaires, serving establishment interests. Right now, both of these parties are led by complete incompetent idiots, and where you expect a modicum of talent when the government changes hands between the two, that hasn't happened this time. Starmer's a Burke, and Kemi Badenoch trying to out-incompetent him is just becoming more and more embarrassing as well, and it has allowed for even worse to come through the middle in Reform UK, even more to the right, with millionaire Nigel Farage and millionaire Richard Tice and millionaire Rupert Lowe. And well, are you sensing a pattern here? Because this is simply the billionaire class's latest move, leaning on politicians, buying their support, owning so much of the media as they already do. Is it any wonder that Reform UK are being pushed in our faces at the expense of progressive politics such as the Green Party? Polling shows the nation is falling for it again. Unfortunately, the billionaires laugh. Idiots like Reeves will get away with it until they outlast their usefulness. But if we don't vote for actual change and not a pretense of it, things will continue to get worse for us. And the longer politics fails us, well, history's full of reckonings, isn't it? Starmer, of course, has been no better, issuing statements on the ceasefire in Gaza and on hostage exchanges, managing to remain fully on the side of Israel as he did so. And again, it points to the money trail associated with him and his party being bought and paid for. He owes the Israel lobby everything from funding his Labour leadership campaign to the election campaign too. So his loyalty to Israel isn't just one of Zionist proclivities, but financial ties as well. Get all the details of those pro-Israel gaffes damaging his party's reputation as much as policy that only benefits the rich coming from the supposed party of the workers in this video recommendation here as your suggested next watch. Please also hit like, share and subscribe to the channel as well to help support it, and make sure you don't miss out on new daily content, which I hope you have enjoyed, and I will hopefully catch you on the next vid therefore. Cheers folks.